From a young age, Charlie's been one of my closest friends. I've enjoyed growing up with Chuck from middle school tennis in the summer to church retreats, as well as many vacations together. Some of my greatest memories with Chuck have definitely come from the multiple experiences we've had in high school, from doing things like going to church groups and him always begging me to drive him whenever we go somewhere. Next year, I'm definitely going to miss the good times we have together on a daily basis, but I'm excited for all the good times we have when we are back home. Now introducing Charlie Keough.
I hate the ocean. I know it's a hot take, but it's true. And for me, when you combine it with the beach experience, you are literally asking for a horrible time. Every single time I try to give the ocean a chance, I repeatedly have a terrible experience. The worst thing, in my opinion, is the never-ending issue of getting salt water in my eyes. The fun part about going to the pool is dunking your head underwater to cool yourself down on a hot day, but this only leads to trouble in the ocean. The awful sting you feel when the salt enters your eyes is enough for me to never come back. Another issue I have is, what is there to do? Snorkeling is not fun, as I find myself swallowing more salt water than I should, and the goggles never fit right, leading to more salt in my eyes. So when I ask people the question, well, what do they do in the ocean for fun? The most common response I get is just to throw a ball around. And I think to myself, how? I can't put my hands in the water, otherwise I cannot wipe my eyes when the salt attacks me. So what am I supposed to do? Just stand there while waves crash into me and get thrown around? Further leading to more irritation in my eyes? Or should I get out of the ocean? But once you do, and it is time to leave, the sand that once felt good on your feet becomes your biggest enemy. How do you keep the sand out of your clothes and your car when you leave the beach? Sand literally sticks to everything and only ends up sitting inside of the mat of my car for weeks. But can we also address another huge concern of mine? How is it that we've only explored 10% of the ocean and still without hesitation jump into it like there's no problem? As I sit here writing the speech and begin to think about all the unknowns that lie underneath the surface, I begin to feel a headache. My friends who know me know I despise sharks, and where do sharks live? Exactly, the ocean. When I tell people I don't want to go anywhere near sharks, they respond to me by saying, but shark attacks are so rare. And I usually tell them, doesn't matter. I couldn't even imagine. The time I watched Jaws literally brought a lot of fears to the surface. I could not even comprehend what it would feel like to be in the water on a beach knowing there is a shark around you. And this is why when I watch movies with my friends, there is always the request that we should watch Jaws.
What's up, guys? My name is Tuzi, and I'm here to introduce my best friend, Jacob Holzer. Before you watch his senior speech, though, let me tell you some things about Jacob. Jacob is really into computers, so into them that he owns 10 different computers. 10! Jacob is the best rapper I know. I know that man can write lyrics about anything. Jacob still hasn't beat me in chess, though, but just as Justin Bieber said, never say never. Without further ado, I present to you Jacob Holzer, the most unique person I know.
FRC defines a robot as an electrical mechanical assembly built by the first robotics competition team to play the current season's game and includes all the basic systems required to be an active participant in the game: power, communications, control, bumpers, and movement about the field. So imagine my surprise when I found out that no one wanted to build the bumpers. Well, that turned out to be my golden opportunity, because there's nothing more brain-dead and important to an FRC team than a good sturdy set of bumpers that you can hopefully forget are even there. Bumpers, being necessary to the robot in more than one way, of course have a lot of rules associated with them. A full 7 pages, in fact, that dictate everything from coloration and markings, though not this year, to the materials and how it attaches to the robot. Personally, I think that is the most interesting continuous 5.6% of the FRC game manual that you can find. So, after reading the rules and regulations, bumper design can finally begin. This phase is actually really quite important, because the bumper, for regulatory reasons, must be able to be removed from the robot within 5 minutes, but it also must be impossible for them to become accidentally detached from the robot, as for that offense, the robot will be disabled for the match, and the 2018 and 2019 FRC teams found that out the hard way. So, for the 2020 bumper design, I had to innovate and go beyond what my bumper building predecessors had done, because it didn't work. Initially, I came up with the idea of using U-channel, which is basically a square metal tube with a side emitted, as a bracket to hold the bumpers on. Now this was a great idea, but it wasn't good enough. The clearance between the robot frame and the bumpers would have been completely kooky, and it would have been annoying to say the least. However, with the help of Mr. Sinner, I instead used Z-channel, which is a piece of metal that's shaped like a Z but with 90-degree angles. This slight minute change made all the difference, as the mounting of Z-channel brackets to the robot and the bumper was far easier. Now that that hurdle was out of the way, the actual design of the bumper needed to get some hammering out. The prototype bot, may it rest in peace, got some quickly and not so well made U-channel brackets bumpers that only covered the corners of the bot. And although they were tougher than hell, they weren't elegant enough for the real bot. That thing is a beauty. I whole-assed the design and created a one-piece bumper which wraps all the way around the robot, with a gap for the intake. This C-shaped masterpiece was so structurally sound that you could pick the whole robot up by it, not that you should, and so precise that every piece had to be within 31 thou of an inch, which actually turned out to be a problem, and I had to make a second one to get it right. Finally, there was the simple matter of attaching the regulation-specified pool noodles and putting on the cloth. Now, after all that, you'd think it was done, and it was supposed to be, but Nick needed them moved down a further half an inch, even though I checked the clearances with the build team like a dozen times to avoid exactly that. But finally, it was done and ready to be shipped off to competition. Then they all got cancelled. Also, PTAC, sorry for almost drilling a hole through the wiring twice.
Lauren is someone that I can always count on, from making me late every day, leaving me stranded late at night, to tackling me when I come home wearing her clothes. She always has my back. And even though I don't ask, she never fails to hit me with her brutally honest opinions about my outfits, the way I look, or what I'm doing. But at the end of the day, I wouldn't change her for the world. If you don't have the pleasure of knowing Lauren, she's loud, obnoxious, and unpredictable. You never know what type of mood she'll be in. But she's also smart, funny, athletic, and the best sister that anyone could ask for. Lauren, I am so thankful to have you in my life. You really make my life better in every single way. And even though it's cheesy, I don't know what I would do without you. And to be honest, I'm kind of scared of what life's going to be like when you aren't home to mess up and get mom and dad off my back. I'm so proud of everything you've accomplished and will continue to accomplish. And I love you so much. Thank you for being my best friend.
Ever since the day I was born, there's always been another sibling with me, preventing anything from ever being boring in my house. Sure, it's nice to have company from time to time, but trust me, I think anyone with siblings can attest to the fact that it can get pretty annoying very quickly. My relationships with my brothers have always been pretty good. To be honest, there wasn't much to disagree about between my brothers and I. But if anybody has known my sister and I since we were younger, you'd know that that's not the case between us. Well, it's the rare occasion for my brother and I to fight. Johnny always getting his way since he's the youngest, and George acting like a third parent since he's the oldest, can always raise a fight out of me. On the other hand, it seemed like there was constant bickering between my sister and I over everything, which my parents really just loved. The bickering often led to physical altercations, which I guarantee there are some people who were unfortunate enough to witness the battles who are still traumatized today. A time which perfectly sums up our relationship was when I was 9 and she was 7. It was the day of our grand finale cheerleading performance. We were all done up in the mandatory red lipstick and black eyeliner and ready to take the field when one of our friends pointed out the football guys who were walking by. Of course, Evelyn thought it was a great idea to tell everybody about the guy I had a crush on in my class. I denied it, but Evelyn was adamant it was true. Finally, I decided the best way to end the little argument was not with any reason, but instead to plow Evelyn over, shoving her to the ground. To be honest, the fight wasn't anywhere near our ugliest dispute, but it was just our luck that someone ended up getting involved in the altercation. Despite it being just a little push, Evelyn just had to fall into one of the younger girls in our group. But what made it worse was that our coach misconstrued the entire situation and told our mom that we were teaming up and bullying the other girls. If anything, it was me bullying Evelyn. Needless to say, this was the end of our cheerleading career. But good thing, because to be honest, we didn't even like it that much. So please, if anybody Even though I just sat here and told you all about the maybe not so great times with my siblings, remember that nobody's perfect. I'm sure that all of my siblings could come up here and complain about me for hours too. But even though your siblings may make you, to put it lightly, frustrated, trust me, there's also some good in all of them as well. I'm so lucky to say that especially through these last 4 years of high school, I've had the opportunity to become closer and find a great friend in each one of them. As much as you may be mad at your sibling or even your friend for taking your clothes, eating your food, or even just being annoying, it's important to cherish the times you have together, especially because when they go off to college, they never speak to you again. I'm talking about you, George. So, Johnny and Evelyn, I'm expecting you guys to treat me like royalty until I leave. Thank you.
I'm going to start with a cliche and say that my sister goes by many names. Friend, family, artist, the list goes on. And I can't imagine my life without her, as crazy as that sounds. And I'm not going to say that we're perfect, because we're not. We argue constantly, we steal each other's things. Okay, that one's mostly on me. But nonetheless, you get the point. We argue constantly. We annoy each other more than anyone else ever could. But nonetheless, she's still my Lessie. And she always will be. I'm so proud of what she's accomplished already. And I know she'll only continue to surprise everyone. She's on a roller coaster that can only go up. She's a light that can't be put out. We've had many, many years together, and I can only look forward to the ones ahead. I know she'll do just fine, even when she's thousands of miles away. Continue to shine, Lessie, and continue to do the things you have the abilities to do. So, continue to do everything your heart desires. No matter what, we're always behind you, every step of the way.
Hello, and before I begin, I would like to start off by saying everybody here should join robotics team number 6823. At the end of summer before school started, my sister and I were driving around the neighborhood in search of a store that sold sugar-coated donuts for my mom. Right next to the store was a Petco that was absolutely screaming our names, mostly because I just wanted to see if I could hold a ferret. Afterwards, we went home and told my mom that we wanted a new pet. My siblings and I decided that we wanted a fish and went back to the store to find a fish that we could bring home. Once we got back to the store, my sister Ariana, who I call Yana, realized that we had another problem: the money fiasco. Basically, we had left half the money that we planned on spending at home. And instead of taking all of my siblings back home, I decided to send Yana back outside in order to get all of the coins that she possibly could out of the car and bring them back inside the store. Thankfully, it was during the national coin shortage, so it only annoyed the cashier a little bit to have to count out all the money in front of us. Afterwards, the other problem was who was going to hold the fish in the car on the way home so that it didn't die. Now, normally, I would have just handed the fish off to any of my siblings, but I didn't want the fish to die right in the car as soon as we got it. So, my youngest sibling, who stole the front seat on my 15-year-old sibling, could not be trusted to hold the fish. We ended up giving the fish to Yana to hold in the back seat next to my 9-year-old sibling, who was also very unhappy that she could not hold the fish. Upon getting back home, my mom was mad that my dad had let us initially get the fish in the first place because none of us could decide on a name for it. After Yana and I started cleaning out the fish tank, everybody agreed that the name should be Klaus, named after Klaus Michelson from the originals. So after that, we decided that the fish was very nice in the kitchen. It was purple, blue, red, green, and it was a betta fish, so it made sense that it would stay by itself in the kitchen. After about 3 weeks, my mom was upset with the fact that she could see the fish all the time. She did not like the fact that the fish was in the kitchen because it was a nuisance. So she made us all decide to take it upstairs. In the end, we decided to put it in my youngest two siblings' room because then at least it wouldn't be forgotten about. Or so we thought. Within a few weeks, the fish had died because we all forgot about the fish. In my defense, I fed it a few times at least before it died, but I don't think that anybody else really remembered to feed it. So one day while my mom was having a conversation on the phone upstairs, she called me up there so that I could dump the fish in the toilet before my 5-year-old sibling saw. We knew that if she had seen the fish, she would have been very upset. So I quickly went downstairs and cleaned out the tank to put it downstairs where she wouldn't find it. Or I at least figured she wouldn't find it. She ended up finding it within a week and knew that he was dead. She wasn't as sad as we thought that she would be, though. So, at the end, we learned that everything in life needs care. Everything that breathes and that lives needs the same amount of care, whether it's a fish or a human being. Thank you.
My name is Miranda Kim, and today I have the honor of introducing Miranda Montijo. As our friendship has strengthened over the past 8 months, I've come to realize how fortunate I am to have her in my life. Miranda has motivated me to become a better student and a better friend. She provides comfort to those who don't ask for it, and she does it without hesitation. As I spend more and more time with her, I can't help but feel as if I've known her my whole life. During the many hours spent at the library together, the comfortable silence shared between us grows louder than our laughter, and Miranda's perseverance and motivation astounds me every day, and I can only hope to be half the woman she is today.
My heritage is my honor. In my ethnic melting pot, I was born mostly Boricua, another word for Puerto Riqueña, another word for Puerto Rican. My first time visiting my beautiful home island from Wisconsin happened when I was around 5 years old. I remember the heavy air in the airport as I departed from one home to another that was held in the mountains of Utuado. I remember the early mornings being awoken by pens of roosters. I remember the humid afternoons being carried by my tío to catch lizards on my abuela's palm trees. I remember the foggy evenings, coquis calling as my flip-flops carried me across the broken pavement. Puerto Rico has always been paradise to me. Yet out of all the days and nights I filled my young mind with memories, my older mind didn't receive the same chance for that ethnic grounding in Utuado. Instead, I found it in a different location, a country eastward of my home island, Panama. I was blessed with the chance and change of a service project hosted by none other than 2 of our own stellar teachers here at USM. In Panama, I gained the most pride for my Latina heritage by speaking my mastered language and caring for malnourished children at Nutreo Hogar that do not have the privilege of the normal commodities we take for granted today. From the pink and blue exterior, to the food in the kitchen, to the steel cribs, my contribution to Nutreo Hogar's facility is not only essential for their short-term functionality, but for their long-term success. Yet, it was the non-tangible aspects that made the biggest difference. I cared for the children as if they were my own, reading them books, holding their hand as they walked, having them fall asleep in my embrace, and carefully spoon-feeding their lunch to provide some example. These infants were at the constant disposal of stress, and my eyes only opened to look deeper into theirs. I met a new family in a way, one that held their culture incredibly close to their hearts. And this encouraged a fire in my heart to understand the beauty behind my own ethnic background. My dad raised me with so much trust that I would find confidence in our shared ethnicity, and it's not surprising that I now can. His help came from creating the foundation for such, and I believe the better the foundation, the longer what was constructed will stand strong. Amidst a time of soul-searching in high school, I've confided in listening to people and experiencing their stories. Aside from the general fascination of getting to know people, I find great comfort in the reassuring proof that I'm not in this world alone. Time never stops for anyone or anything, which can be ruthless. What helps me slow down is taking these opportunities to regain my grounding of the present in my Latina roots. I implore anyone to find an aspect of their identity that relieves their stress or gets them excited. Trust me, if you do, you'll invest in a commitment that rewards both your well-being and your stability.
Despite being my younger sister, Zoe is always taking care of me. When she was 6, we were at my friend's hockey game, and I had bought a candy bar to give to him after the game. I decided to ask Zoe to hang on to it for me until after the game since the bar had peanuts in it. Upon handing it to her, she immediately took it, ran to the nearest trash can, and spiked it into the garbage. She had a smile on her face the whole time, very happy that she had gotten rid of the candy bar that I was allergic to. She's held this up her whole life, constantly caring for the people that she loves fiercely. It's been my favorite thing watching Zoe grow up into an inspiring leader, a determined student, a fierce athlete, and my best friend. I'm very excited to introduce Zoe Eline. Love you, Ja.
To say that 2020 was a hard year would be the understatement of the century. My family and I had to face the most adversity I think we have ever been exposed to, all starting in March when my dad started living in what we called the doc pod. My dad is an ER doctor, and in the beginning of the year, he lived in our driveway as an attempt to keep my mom, my sister, and myself safe. Little did we know that was only the beginning. A couple months later, sadly, I lost both of my grandmas to health complications, and to really top it all off, my dog passed away 2 weeks later. While this was all a very trying and difficult experience, I don't want to sit here and tell you all my sob story of 2020. Rather, I want to focus on all the growth and great things I learned amidst the adversity. To start, if I learned anything this year, it's that family is the most important thing in the world. While the pain that my grandma's deaths brought was strong, I realized that in the true perspective of things, I was extremely fortunate, because that pain was due to how loved and supported I was by both of them. This idea of support then extended into the support my family provided each other through all the rough patches. In the past, I really believed that I couldn't be any closer to my family. However, 2020 proved that to be a false statement. Next, it also became very clear to me that I had amazing friends. Obviously, I had my family, but the amount of people that were there for me really made a difference in my life. If it wasn't for those people, who many of them are probably watching this right now, I would truthfully be in a much worse place. And I would just like to thank all of them for doing so much for me, whether it was an ice cream run, mini golf, baked goods, flowers, or an amazingly cute sunshine package. What they all did for me and my family was so appreciated, and I'm eternally grateful. Last, but certainly not least, is that the Elines decided to make some impulsive decisions and buy not one, but 2 puppies. Now, my sister Brooke has a little French bulldog named Charlie in memory of my grandma Charlene in Colorado, and the rest of the Eline clan have a Bernedoodle named Jax. If I learned anything from this year, it's that to appreciate all the little things, tell people you love them, and that puppies really do solve all of life's problems. Thank you.